Assalamualaikum Pak Dekan.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi bagus. Mamang.
Saya atur nuhun Pak Dekan, Pak Sunti.
Jam berapa mulai kita?
Sekarang Pak.
Siap, enggak?
Bu Wulan mangga di kawitan we.
Mohon Pak, mangga. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, Dr. Baike Mulyana, Vice Dean, Heads of the Study Program and Department of the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, the Honorable Speaker and invited guests, the Honorable Organizing Committee of the webinar series on Sport and Physical Education, and all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first webinar series on sport and physical education, Dialogue on Dynamic Physical Education in Elementary School. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all praise and thanks be to God Almighty for the abundance of grace and joy that all of us can gather in this event in good health. Ladies and gentlemen, the webinar will begin with the report from the chairman of the webinar, Dr. Agus Mahendra, MA. To Dr. Mahendra, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibu Wulandari, for
You're welcome.
letting me in. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
Distinguished guest speaker, the Dean of the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, and all respected participants. Welcome to the webinar series on sport and physical education organized under the auspices of the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, delivering a dialogue on dynamic PE for elementary school for the purpose of formulating PE curriculum for elementary school. The Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, permit me please to report to you that this dialogue is intended to induce a very important milestone for all study program under the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, since we have constantly been challenged to always evaluate the very fundamental academic program over to the society, including in terms of curriculum. Our study program, PET for elementary school, when be assigned to host this webinar on pioneering the execution of sport and physical education webinar series, decided to direct this obligation to reflect on formulating new curriculum. Somehow, this curriculum reformulation is timely amidst the national urban movement mandated by the Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia under the policy Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka, or
Excuse me, there is no sound.
Pak Agus, punten ke mute itu Pak Agus.
Okay, now I can hear. No, can't hear.
Sir, you're still muted.
Agus.
Okay, thank you very much.
constantly muting. I don't know why. To realize the above purpose, we feel very fortunate and very pleased, for we could invite the most reputable physical education expert in the world, the Honorable Professor Emeritus Robert P. Pangrazi, Ph.D. from Arizona State. I'm sure all the physical education teacher in Indonesia know Professor Pangrazis very well for his book entitled Dynamic Physical Education for Elementary School Children has been circulating here in Indonesia since at least 1990. It's all over 30 years ago. This morning, we all will have greater opportunity to learn directly from him and the most critical issue about physical education in elementary school. I'm also delighted to report that our participant for this dialogue has reached over 900 person registered, ranging from students, PE teachers, lecturers, and some of them are proponent professors from state and private universities all over Indonesia. We also recorded that some participants come from our neighbor countries like the Philippines and Malaysia. We could notice that friends and colleagues from the Philippines are the most participating, attending this webinar. They are seemingly coming from several cities and islands over the country from Davao City, Makati, Manila, Cebu, Luzon, Mindanao, San Juan, Angeles, sorry?
I'm sorry, Dr. Agus, you can.
And also from Rizal Province, to name a few. Over 155 colleagues and friends coming from the Philippines. Thank you very much for your participation in our webinar. This great enthusiastic participation, I am certain, is strongly influenced by the great name and popularity of our reputable speaker with the eye-opening masterpiece and contribution in the area of physical education. Never before in our experience on hosting such conference and webinar to have ever been attended by so many friends and colleagues from one single country like today. This is fantastic, and I do believe this result will make our webinar even more pleasing. I'd like to take this opportunity also to extend sincere gratitude to the Dean of the Faculty of Sport and Health Education for all the support given to the committee's member and our study program. The highest gratitude should, of course, go to Professor Robert P. Pangrazi for the sheer willingness and kindness to share expertise and experience to us, particularly in the area of physical education. I am glad also to have so many distinguished professors from all sports science faculties around Indonesia, all lecturer, all PE teacher and student. Special thanks goes to all friends and colleagues from neighbor countries, from Malaysia and the Philippines, especially sheer appreciation to the best friends of mine from Davao Immaculate University, the Philippines, Dr. Rene M. Barrera, for the support and help in disseminating the webinar information to all the colleagues all over the country. Finally, I'd like to congratulate all the participants for attending the webinar. Enjoy and have a good time and have a fruitful discussion. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right. Thank you very much to Dr. Agus Mahendra. And ladies and gentlemen, next there will be a welcoming speech from the Dean of the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, Dr. Boyke Mulyana MPD. To Dr. Boyke Mulyana MPD, the time is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Venerable keynote speaker, Venerable Head of the Elementary Physical Education Study Program, Venerable Organizing Committee of the webinar, Venerable invited guests, and distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Before anything else, I would like to welcome you all to the 2021 webinar series on sport and physical education with the main discussion theme dialogue on dynamic physical education in elementary school on formulating physical education, teacher education curriculum for elementary school children. Well, the year 2021 has been a challenging one for all of us. Years into this pandemic, most of us are still working hard to address the biggest health crisis of our time and reverse the damage it causes to our people and education. Most of our students are at a very disadvantaged starting position. Thus, if our movement wants to stay relevant, it must be adaptive and innovative, as well as contribute as a part of the solution to this pandemic. In addition, I would like to extend my gratitude to the keynote speaker, Mr. Robert Pangrazi, Ph.D., who is willing to collaborate with us to share his knowledge and experience in the field of physical education in elementary school. I would also express my deep gratitude to the head of the Elementary Physical Education Study Program, Dr. Agus Mahendra, MA, and all the committee members of the webinar who had worked hard to host this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, concerning PE, including elementary school, elementary physical education, is now dynamically changing due to the current development in its science and in innovations. The changes and development are intended for the betterment of the student health, and we're going both now and in the future, in the future. This dynamic changes demand transformation in the PE curriculum so that the learning process will be relevant to the current beliefs and expected outcomes. Therefore, I do appreciate the elementary physical education study program for initiating this event. It is expected that this webinar could give a significant contribution to improving knowledge for either academic society as well as improvement in teaching and learning process and practices. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to thank all the participants for joining this webinar. I hope this will be a platform for gaining beneficial experiences and knowledge. We must strive for equitable access to education in the midst COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the use of teaching and learning technology and other resources that can increase our opportunities. Last but not least, hopefully all of us remain safe and healthy. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of my speech, here I officially open the 2021 webinar series on sport and physical education. I thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much to Dr. Boyke Mulyana MPD for the welcoming speech and the opening for the webinar. And ladies and gentlemen, before we move to the main event, firstly, we will pray together, and the prayer will be guided by Dr. Dian Budiana MPD. To Dr. Dian Budiana MPD, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udzu bihi min syururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudhillalah wa may yudhlil fala hadiyalah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, amma ba'du. The Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Dr. Boyke Mulyana MPD, the Honorable Head of Physical Education for Elementary School Study Program, Dr. Agus Mahendra MA, the Honorable Keynote Speaker, Professor Pangrazi from the Arizona State University, and the Honorable Organizing Committee and all participants. It's our gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and the smooth running of the first 2021 webinar series event of the Faculty of Sport and Education, organized by Physical Education for Elementary School Study Program. Let us bow our head for a moment to pray Allah. May Allah make this a rewarding event and always be into protection of the him.
Amen.
Astaghfirullahaladzim, astaghfirullahaladzim, astaghfirullahaladzim. Alladzi la ilaha illa qayyum wa atubu ilaik. Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi وأصحابه أجمعين آمين يا الله يا رب العالمين
Amin.
Allahumma ighfir lana wa liwalidayna warhamhuma kama rabbayana shighara. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan halalan thayyiban wa 'amalan mutaqabbala. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaitana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmah innaka antal wahhab. Rabbana la tu'akhidna in nasina wa akhtana. Rabbana wa la tahmil 'alaina isran kama hamaltahu 'alal ladzina min qablina. Rabbana wa la tuhammilna ma la taqata lana bih wa'fu anna waghfir lana warhamna anta maulana fansurna 'alal qaumil kafirin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa bil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun ala mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Dr. Dian Budiana MPD. And ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the main session of the event. And in this session, we'll be guided by Dr. Agus Mahendra MA. Dr. Agus Mahendra is the head of the elementary school physical education study program. And he has a wide and comprehensive knowledge in physical education, especially for elementary school students, which is proven by the publication, among others are Pembelajaran Musik dan Gerak, Dasar Pengembangan Aktivitas Ritmik di Sekolah Dasar, and Teacher's Perspective about Teaching Effectiveness Barriers in Elementary Physical Education, Teacher Self-Evaluation. Well, it is about Dr. Agus Mahendra. Without any further ado, please welcome Dr. Agus Mahendra to guide the session.
Thank you very much, Ibu Wulan, for a nice introduction. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me for the second time to again speak, and actually I should admit that I was so naive to accept this duty from the organizing committee to chair this dialogue. My name is Agus Mahendra, as has been introduced by the MC, the head of PE program for elementary school at the Faculty of Sport and Health Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. It's my honor to chair and lead the dialogue with the honorable speaker, Professor Robert Pangrazi, Ph.D. And as has been mentioned in the report, the intention of this dialogue is basically to gather a supporting intellectual and professional judgment over the newly implemented and perceived curriculum of our PET program, run and prepare for the elementary school. So basically, this dialogue will take place in the form of question and answer between moderator or myself and Professor Pangrazi without any presentation slide or PowerPoint. And in between, I will invite comments from audience to comment on or respond to the topic being discussed. But before we begin, let me ask your permission to introduce Professor Pangrazi as our distinguished guest. To do that, of course, I will my note and read all the information regarding His Excellency's career path. Robert Pangrazi is a professor emeritus at Arizona State University and an educational consultant for Gopher Sport and Hope Sport. He began his career as a 5th grade teacher and was an ASU professor of physical education for 32 years. Dr. Pangrazi's physical education textbook has sold around 1 million copies and has published over 60 textbooks and 125 research and professional articles. He has been a keynote speaker for 55 state and district convention and an invited speaker at more than 500 national and international conferences. He regularly conducts training sessions for school and universities and is regarded as a motivational speaker. His approach to elementary school physical education has been used worldwide and is used in hundreds of public, private, and charter schools across the United States. Pangrazi also authored the Gopher Active and Healthy School program that is used in many schools throughout the US. He served as the editor to many journals, including 13 years as co-editor of the PCFSM Research Digest. Pangrazi has received numerous awards, including the Distinguished Service Award from the President Council on Physical Fitness and Sport, the National Distinguished Service Award presented by the Upper Council on Physical Education for Children, and the Curriculum and Instruction Emeritus Honor Award from the NASPE Curriculum and Instruction Academy. He is a fellow in the National Academy of Kinesiology and a Shape America Upper Honor Fellow. Pangrazi recently received Shape America's highest national honor, the Luther Halsey Gulick Award, for his many contribution for the profession. So, to begin with, let me have some time also to give you a clue of why this dialogue is so important to us. From historical perspective, PET development in Indonesia was developed by our founding father with the mode of compartmentalized between those for elementary school teacher preparation and those for secondary school teacher preparation. From that moment, the country regained independence from Dutch colonial government to recognize institutions that train physical education teachers have existed actually. But this physical education teacher in a high school level with 4-year study program, which is established in 1950, then closed in conjunction with the rule or regulation from the government that the minimum qualification for teachers should be at least 2-year diploma. And now the qualification for teacher has already also improved to become 4 years education or at least bachelor degree. After this, implementation, then in around 1980s, in the end of 1980s, the sport teacher school then was closed by the government. It was formally closed by the government, and then shown up again only after 2006. So briefly stated that UPI, our university, have devoted effort to open the new study program called PETE for elementary school for about almost 6 years. This PETE for elementary school at UPI is the only PET for ES in Indonesia. And until now, so far, there are only 3 PET programs for ES in Indonesia. After the State University of Yogyakarta and the State University of Semarang also opened this PET program. So with this limited number of PET program, we have not been able to unite in form of association of the PET for elementary school. Consequently, we still have different concept and meaning of the PE program in elementary school and what is the PE program for ES is all about. In 2018, PET program for elementary school in UPI has tried to formulate the new curriculum for our PET program, with all the effort was devoted to eliminate the sport spirit that so strong during so long time, that has been almost become the culprit and almost has been blamed for the ineffectiveness of PE program in most schools. With this new curriculum in our university, the gap among the three PET program above was even broader. So this is actually the organ of this dialogue, how to lessen the distant gap among us. Another reason why do we think that this dialogue is important, to involve more persons in charge from many universities running the faculty of sport sciences, is to convince that the PET program for elementary school is really critical to be established in all faculty all over Indonesia, for the fact that the need for PE teacher placement in elementary school is much larger in number than that in the secondary and high school. But so far, there is no progressing movement from those faculty that so far still remnant with only run the teacher preparation by one PET program, serving for both the necessity to specialize teacher for elementary school. So here I have long text of question to be discussed with Professor Robert Pangrazi, that I call Bob. So Bob, our question to you is first regarding the difference between physical education and at elementary school and that in secondary and high school. What aspect that actually differentiate between PE at elementary school and PE at secondary and or high school? Are they different from the what aspect that should the student know and be able to do, or in terms of movement tasks, or are they different in terms of the equipment that should be different, or are they different from the way teachers treat and interact with children? As one of the author of very tumultuous books in PE entitled Dynamic Physical Education for Elementary School Children, and it is also one of the reasons why we hope that this would be our honorable guest this morning. We would like to have your vision about the essence of PE at elementary school. Could you please do so for us? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Agus. Let me first of all thank you for the nice introduction and the opportunity to speak with all of you. And I have been in education, excuse me, many years. And one of the things about education, and it goes like this, back and forth. We do one thing, then we come back and do the same thing 10 years later. And it cycles around and around. So I've been able to see quite a few of those cycles because this is my 55th year in education. So I have taught a long time and I have strong feelings about education, and I have a great love of it and a great passion for it. If you ask me questions, or if I give you an answer and you don't think it's the answer, that I didn't answer what you were asking, please ask it again, because it's probably me that doesn't understand you. It's not your problem, it's mine. It's my responsibility to understand you. So I'll do the best I can. I'm a man of few words. I'll cut straight to the point and tell you exactly what I feel and how I feel about it. And if you want to pursue it more, I will do that. If you ask me a question I don't know, I'm very good at saying, I don't know, can't answer that. So don't be afraid to try to pin my ears back, as we say. So the difference between elementary and secondary, and by the way, I guess you and your committee did a great job of putting together your thoughts here. So thank you for that. And I wanted to have dialogue. First of all, are they different? Day and night, black and white, totally different. They're not even the same thing. And you have to pick the kind of people you want to go into each program, because the kinds of people that decide to go teach elementary physical education are totally different than the types of people that want to be high school teachers. In America, the people that want to be high school teachers or secondary PE teachers want to coach. As you know, our programs are different in that all athletics are tied to the school. And so not only does a teacher teach PE at the high school, but they probably coach a sport. So most of them value the sport coaching more than they do teaching. So to be honest with you, the quality of teaching at the high school is very poor in the US. The quality teaching in PE is done in the elementary school. And I think America is quite different from, I've traveled all over the world and seen a lot of countries and a lot of programs. Most countries have pretty good secondary PE programs, but not very good elementary PE programs. America is just the opposite. We have pretty good elementary PE programs. Our secondary programs are lacking. And poorly organized. So they're different from that standpoint. Secondly, with elementary kids, one of the things we're trying to do is expose them to a wide variety of activities. I always use kind of a diamond shape, if you can think like that. And when young children, 4 or 5 years of age, come to me, they're all the same. They all know about the same thing, and they come to school, and it's my job to show them all these activities. And then they go to middle school and high school, and the job should be to focus them on something good, because most of the time they leave high school not being good at anything. They learn a unit of this, a unit of that, a unit of this, and they don't learn anything in depth. So elementary school is to broaden and get these kids to know that there are lots of activities out there, but not to worry about making them athletes or high quality performers or highly fit. And we can talk about fitness later, because it's a waste of time with elementary children, but that's another story we can talk about later. But the point is here that you're trying to broaden their horizon in elementary school. So it's more about touching them with a whole lot of activities, giving them the opportunity to experience a lot of things. So I have tremendous amounts of equipment for elementary children, because they should be able to touch all types of balls and projectiles and bean bags and jump rope and play with parachutes. It should be about the experience. At the middle school, let's just talk about middle school for a minute, because I think that's a special case. Middle school is different than the high school, than the secondary high school. And middle school is different than the elementary school. When children go into adolescence, in other words, they're going into puberty, they get a whole new body, and they have to relearn every skill they learned in elementary school. So oftentimes what you will hear is you'll hear a middle school teacher say, wow, they didn't learn anything in elementary school. Well, that's not true. They have a whole new body. Let's smile a minute and think about little kids in elementary school. They have big heads, 90% of adult size. They have little short legs, so they're top heavy. And when you tell them to stop quickly, they fall because they're so heavy. Now, when they go into puberty in the middle school, they have to relearn all those skills. So that is not a time to teach them just sports and just activities like that. Then when they go into high school, they can start to develop some fitness and maybe focus on one skill they really want to do. But we're graduating our students in America, and I can't speak for Indonesia, so don't apply what I say to Indonesia. But if the shoe fits, wear it, as we say. If in America, we're graduating students who aren't good at anything when they leave. And so they aren't active for a lifetime. And my entire goal of physical education is to make students active and healthy, which is much more important than making them athletes or highly fit. And you can ask me more about that later. So is elementary school different? Extremely different. And the idea there is to develop positive attitudes and keep them turned on so that they're excited about being active. And then oftentimes they go to middle school and we put them in sports and things they don't really want to do, and then they don't like it anymore. So, you know, we're really working on the transition of getting kids to go into things that they want to. And by the way, at the high school, there has to be choice involved. You should be able to choose what you want to do. And by the way, I'll welcome any questions. If any of your guests, Agus, want to ask me a question, they're more than welcome.
All right. Okay. Now let's get to the second question because I think it's related closely. I ever read a book from David Kirk from the United Kingdom describing that physical education program in school is in certain countries actually has been influenced by all PE paradigm. So he ever mentioned in his book, Physical Education Future, year 2010, that physical education is in crisis because the dominant practice of physical education as sport techniques, which is resistant to change. What he described about is exactly the fact depicting most PE lesson happening in Indonesia. So we called our PE lesson in school is strongly influenced by the paradigm of sport-based PE. Why does this have been happening? Simply because our PE curriculum program was strongly composed by the sports skill acquisition courses and empowered with the spirit of helping children to acquire many skills of formal sport, compete in many national and international championship or competition. To me, it was something that should be changed as well, especially in our PET curriculum for elementary school. It should not reflect that sports spirit, that just like what you mentioned, that kids or children in the elementary school should learn a variety of basic movement that will enrich their capability as a good mover. So what we have in our new curriculum in 2000, we call it 2018 curriculum, is an image of effort to lessen those situations in which the fully loaded of sports spirit that dominated the old curriculum was drastically changed, with diminishing the sport concept and its strongly bound component, including minimizing the sport science taxonomy as the only basis of the physical education practice. Our question to you is, do you have that kind of PE in most schools in the US so far until now? Or do you think that kind of paradigm could be altered, and what effort did you do as the academician to make it realize? We should confess that those kind of thing is still strongly prevail in Indonesia so far. So maybe you can tell me about what in your country.
Yeah, well, yeah, to answer your question with one word, yes, we have much of that in our country as well, where they're sports centered. Here's the problem. It's easy to criticize. First of all, I was an athlete. I played 4 sports. I love sports. I have no issue with that. But sports aren't for everybody. In fact, sports, high level of sports, are for very few. They're for the elite. And you better be born good, because you're not going to get good in PE, and you're not going to be a great athlete just because you want to. You need good parents. Okay, I always say, show me a good athlete, and I'll show you parents who had the right genetic makeup. So in our programs, yes, they're very sports centered. Here's the issue when you start to try to change their curriculum. You have a lot of PE teachers who all they know is sport.
Yeah.
So how are you going to retrain them? Are you just going to tell them, no, no more sport. We want active and healthy lifetime sport activities. We want kids to learn to be active outside of school. How are you going to change them? What are you going to do for them? You can't just go in and tell them you're too sports centered. You're too sport eccentric. Okay. You can't do that. So it's easy to sit back as I heard David Kirk many times, and he and I have talked many times, and I don't disagree with his point. I think it's a good point. What I do know, I'm more of a guy who's in the schools all the time, and I know what schools are like. It's very easy to be a professor sitting in an office, never being in schools, telling schools what they should be doing. And I'm a man who knows schools inside and out. And if you can catch my humor here, I often say some professors don't know the difference between the inside of a church and the inside of a school because they're never in it. Okay. So my point is, what are you going to do with all these PE teachers who all they know is a sport? They know one thing, maybe basketball. They may know one thing, football or soccer or, rugby. You can name any of it. You all know the sports. I don't have to name them. So the only hope as I see it is that we start to find places for new teachers and give them the leeway to teach what they want. But we can't sit in a university and just tell these young people, go out and teach whatever you want. Do you know why? Because when they get to the high school teachers will beat them down and tell them, no, you can't teach that in our school. We won't give you this equipment if you don't teach our curriculum. We won't do this if you don't coach our sport. So we in the universities need to be change agents, but we got to get out of our office. We got to get into schools, and I started over and over pilot programs. By a pilot program is a small program you start in one school and you get it going. And once people can see success, then others will want to do it. So you can't go out and try to change the whole world at once. And I can tell you the truth, if you change the whole curriculum at your university all at once, first of all, no one will know what you're doing. And secondly, your graduates won't be prepared for what they're going to see when they get out in a school. So it has to be gradual. I'm sorry to say. It takes time.
Yeah. But in terms of our program and let's say PE program for elementary school, is it wise, do you think, that our curriculum should also consider to enrich the competency of teacher, that their duty is not only related to physical development of the children, but also they need to develop the cognitive and also emotional, social, and including moral development that expected to build holistic quality of human being. And to do that, we are now actually trying to fill in our curriculum with putting into the structure the courses that expectedly will improve that knowledge, like what Schulman knowledge taxonomy, like content knowledge. Content knowledge is not, I do not doubt that we have a good experience on that. But in terms of putting like general pedagogical knowledge and then content pedagogical knowledge and then children characteristic knowledge and other knowledge, like I think it's something that we don't have it in our curriculum. So we already put it inside the curriculum. So what do you think? Is that a better option than letting the teacher just, let's say, show their competence in only the sport that they have? What do you think? Thank you.
Well, it goes without saying, you can't teach anybody just an activity, the motor skill part of it. You're teaching human beings, and they feel, and they hurt, and they're happy, and they're sad, and they have feelings and social emotional development, and they have they have to know the knowledge part of it. And yes, all that goes together. But I do want to say this to you, and I want you to think carefully. One of the problems with physical education in the US is that we ask physical educators to do everything. We're very unsure of ourselves as physical educators. So first thing we start saying is, well, you got to help with emotional development. You got to help with cognitive development. You got to help in the classroom, so you integrate your concepts with what's going on in the classroom. You got to do social development. You got to take care of bullying. You got to do everything everywhere. What other teacher do we ask to do everything? None. I was a classroom teacher. I wasn't told I had to do physical development with my students in 5th grade. I was told to do cognitive development and make them better people socially. So we got to be careful about trying to do everything for everybody. And one of the problems with physical educators is that they're told to do this, do that, and they drop the ball. Look, let's not fool ourselves. No one else in the school will teach kids skills, how to move, how to enjoy activity, how to be physically active, learn how to be fit. No other teacher in the school will do that. That's huge. That's health. My health is the most important thing I have. And when you get my age, you'll want to have my health. Health is very, very important. And that's what a good physical education program must never lose sight of. You are there to teach kids about their health and maintaining it and learning how to live an active lifestyle and being active for a lifetime. That's huge. Now, do all these other things around the perimeter, do I need to teach kids how to behave and how to be good social beings? Yes. Do I need to teach them not to bully others? Yes. Do I need to teach them compassion for other human beings? Sure, but that all happens, and it's around the core of activity. And it's like saying to a math teacher, don't worry so much about your math. Teach them more about being social and being emotional and being cognitive knowledge and all this, but forget the math. The math teacher has to teach math. And we have to focus on activity. And one of the things that bothers me about university professors is that they get wrapped up in academia and they forget that our field is about movement. It's about health. It's about activity. Now, can you tell I feel strongly about that? I hope so, because I do. And we can't forget what we're there for, because no other teacher in the school will do that for children. The math teacher's not going to do it. The 5th grade teacher's not going to do it. The kindergarten teacher's not going to do it. That's what we do. So if you're going to do all these things, okay, but you make darn sure you've got a good core of what we're about. We're physical education. Don't lose sight of that any more than the English teacher or the math teacher or the science teacher can lose sight of their teaching science.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, I didn't mention about that physical education teacher need to have the ability to teach other subject actually or other courses. But asking you about that because in your book, The Dynamic of PE for Elementary School Children, you ever mentioned that physical education is the part of a child's overall education that teaches and involves movement. Physical education must be largely an instructional program if it is to be a full partner of in the child's overall education. And then you come up with three major and unique contributions. The concept that I already tried to introduce to our PE teacher in Indonesia. This was a very good concept, I think. The unique contribution of physical education to the total school curriculum consisting of three. Like first is to develop personal activity and a health habit. So from that contention, I would just infer that the teacher needs to master or to know, to be knowledgeable enough to teach that concept of health and concept of human wellness, including like fitness concept. And then the second contribution, you mentioned that to develop and enhance movement competency and motor skill. From that side, I think it's only related to the
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. It's just got idea that I'm muted, sorry. And then the second was to develop and enhance movement competency and motor skill. From that, I could infer that teacher also need to have or to master the concept of especially the content knowledge related to movement and concept and component of the movement.
Yes.
Not only sport, right? And
Yes.
then the
Yes.
third one is to gain conceptual understanding in movement principle from because moving efficiently require learning basic concept of movement and understanding both anatomical and mechanical principle. So physical education in this term need to also master kind of sports science discipline, especially like biomechanics or maybe anatomy or physiology. That's what I mean. So
yes, and let me just say, I can't disagree with anything you're saying. Okay, I agree with everything you said. I will say this, and now I'm talking about my own writing, but I think the biomechanics is the least important. I think the first two you said are the most important. Okay, the concepts and the movement. I think that's most important, and I think. Let me say this. I think when we graduate teachers, let's just talk about teachers, and we want to produce teachers. When we graduate teachers, what is it that they really need to know? And we've given them biomechanics and anatomy and physiology and sports psychology and all these courses that they're never going to use when they're teaching in the elementary school. They're never going to use any of that. Let's not fool ourselves. What do they need to know? Well, I'll tell you, when they walk into the activity area and they have 30 children looking at them, they better know how to handle those kids and manage them and teach them and be able to discipline and get them to do the things they want. I have a saying with my teachers: if you can't manage your students, you can't teach them. And most students leave the university, not mine, because that was number one with me, but most students leave the university knowing all about all these things, how to write a curriculum, which is absolutely irrelevant for a beginning teacher. All these things they know, but they don't know how to handle children. They don't know how to work and sell their program to their administrator and their principal. They don't know how to break down activities so the little kids can do them. They don't know all these things that they need to do that are hands-on practitioner. It's almost like giving a doctor all this theory about surgery, but never letting them perform and practice any surgery. And we graduate our students and they don't know anything about handling children. And class management has to be number one, because if you can't manage, it doesn't matter how much you know about physical education. And you know, Agus, I don't want to give the audience, I don't want to give all my friends out there the idea that I don't think all those things you mentioned are unimportant, because I think PE is the best place to teach kids not to bully. I think it's the best place to teach them how to take turns. I think it's the best place to teach them how to be graceful and lose gracefully and be humble when you win. All these values that are so important in life. I can't think of a better place to teach than in physical education. But first of all, we better teach teachers how to teach.
Okay. Yeah, I get your point. Thank you. And in the meantime, I also see some of the audience raise their hand. I see Prof. Tandio Rahayu from the Semarang State University. Actually, it was intended that after this third question, I will let anybody to, let's say, to put forward the comment or to respond anything that you have. So now it's like just coincidence that finally you already raised the hand. So I invite Professor Tandio Rahayu to comment on what we have already discussed. Please, Prof. Thank you very much. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Agus Mahendra. Good morning, everyone. And Professor Pangrazis, thank you very much. It's my honor to meet you in this Zoom meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Prof,
Professor.
could you please introduce yourself a bit about?
Oh, okay. Okay. Professor and all of participants, I am Tandio Rahayu. My name is Tandio Rahayu. I'm now Dean of Faculty of Sport Science in Universitas Negeri Semarang, Central Java, Indonesia. And recently, I am very concerned about the physical education in elementary school, because as Mr. Agus Mahendra said, that we still have in Indonesia lots of problems in physical education in elementary. Professor, I can agree more about what you already explained about the difference between PE for elementary and PE for secondary or high school, or PE in high school. But further, I am curious about, and will be delighted if you can share and explain your experience about how the best way to assess or to evaluate the learning, PE learning result in elementary school.
Oh,
Thank
what
you.
a question. That's a very good question, and there's never a good answer, but I'm going to try, okay?
Okay.
I think it's a very good question. Well, first of all, we need to quit thinking that we are like the academic areas in a school. In other words, what happens is a physical education teacher gets a job, and there's other teachers teaching the academic side of school. And we think, and sometimes the administrator says, I want you to grade just like they're grading in the classroom. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. We're not the same.
Yes, agree.
Okay, our profession is repetition and refinement. What we do is we practice a skill. And let me just give you a concrete example. Let's take throwing. And you have 6-year-olds and you're going to teach them how to throw. And then you have 9-year-olds and you're going to practice throwing some more. And then 10-year-olds, more throwing. 11-year-olds, more throwing. But they're never perfecting it. Because in sport, you're not perfect at anything. In academics, 2 + 2 always has to equal 4.
Yeah.
It always has to be right. And if you don't get it right, then I grade you down. But in PE, we practice and we practice. Let's say you're a basketball player and you shoot at the basket. Sometimes you make 5 out of 10. Sometimes you're lucky you make 9 out of 10. How am I going to grade you? So how do I grade? I grade on whether when you're in my class, you're doing a lot of repetitions and you're practicing, whether you have a positive attitude towards what you're doing, and whether you understand how to perform the skill correctly. And if you understand those things, then I'm willing to grade you on my own scale. But my grading scale will not be the same as the rest of the school. And one of the problems is that physical education teachers go into a school and they're intimidated. And they think, well, what if I say I'm different than academics? Then the administrator won't believe in me. They will if you explain them. Most administrators don't understand us. They just don't understand us. And so if we explain it, they totally understand. And they know there's no perfection in our business. Even great athletes, the very best athletes in the world, make mistakes and fail. So how could we grade that on a basis of perfection? Impossible. So in my curriculum, I don't know how many of you have seen my curriculum, but it's free. I put it online, and I'm going to share my screen for a minute just to show you a few things. Is that okay, Agus?
Yes,
Yes.
please do.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is online, and this is my curriculum. It's called Dynamic PE ASAP, and you can see my bald head there. So I'm going to log in and sign in. Now, what this has is my entire curriculum online with lesson plans for 36 weeks a year. It's all organized systematically. I'm going to show you in a minute. You can go right down the line. You can go to Dynamic Physical Education and search for it and get online and register. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at some lesson plans. Here's the nice thing now. If I look at my lessons, and I've created a year's lesson plans, here's kindergarten through 2nd grade, weeks all the way through 36. And then here's grades 3, 4. And then down here at the end is grades 5 through 8. So if I go into a lesson, here's the 4 parts of a lesson. So if I want to see what this looks like, it's all written out. I can print this out. I can put it on 5x8 cards. I can look at a video and see how to do it.
First activity we're going to do is called move and manipulate. When I say go to the side you're closest to, pick up a beanbag, and once you pick that beanbag up, show me jog, toss, and catch. Keeping my eyes on it, but also watching where I'm going so I'm not bumping into anyone. Go. All the way to hustle out as that first one out there, toss, catch, watching where you're going. Keeping your eyes on that beanbag, catch.
All right, so there are about 200 videos of how to do things. Now, you talked about assessment. So if I want to assess something, so not only that, but there are signs in all of these. So here's video down at the bottom. I can look at the activity signs and print them out and use them for my fitness activities. Look, I'm doing all the curriculum for you. It's all here. All they have to do is get back on there and look it out. Now you want to see about assessment. You were wondering about assessment. Well, here's one we're going to do. We're going to designate a compliment corner, and then we're going to write kind things about each other. And then we're going to share them, and we're going to go through it. So there's 160 ways to assess your students. And we always use formative assessment. Remember, formative assessment is seeing if they are moving towards the goal we want, but it probably never results in perfection. So in all of that, you've got all these things to do. So now let's go back and let's pick another lesson. And let's say you want to do something with pedometers or something with a parachute. Well, here's a parachute lesson. So I warm them up going around. I do an aerobic fitness because I'm a believer in a 4-part lesson. And then I do fundamental skills using a parachute. Well, here we go. If you don't know how to use a parachute with young kids,
Carefully walk to the center, stretch it out.
tells you exactly how to manage your children to get them to get the chute out.
Stretch, stretch, stretch. Shake that parachute as fast as you can.
All right, enough of that. You can go explore yourself. It's
All right.
Dynamic PE ASAP.
All right.
And-
Thank you, Prof.
And you can go there and you can have a look, and you wanted to know about assessment. There's 160 ways to assess. You wanted to know about videos, there's 220 videos. You wanted to know about signs, there's 70 set of instructional signs for teaching skills to kids so they can self-direct themselves. So there's a curriculum out there, and it doesn't cost you one Indonesian penny, okay? I know it's penny in our country, but not yours.
Okay.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor. And to Mr. Agus,
Yes.
I think we should invite Professor Pangrazi once again and ask the principal of elementary school to hear what Prof. Pangrazi explained about physical education in elementary school.
Yeah. I agree with you,
yeah.
Prof.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much for.
Thank you. Thank you,
for
Professor.
questions
Thank
and
you.
Thank you.
On it, yeah. Well, actually, I saw so many friends and colleagues from the Philippines. So I'd like also to invite one or two colleagues from the Philippines, because some of them are also coming from famous university. I invite Dr. Rennie at first. Is Dr. Rennie still here with us?
Yeah, Dr. Agus, good morning. Good evening, Dr. Robert.
Good morning. Okay.
Yeah.
Time for you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, selamat pagi, Dr. Agus. Selamat malam,
Yeah, selamat pagi.
Dr. Robert. I am very happy that the Philippines has a huge participation to this very, very insightful discussion. I am happy that finally somebody is telling us that physical education should be the core focus in the elementary. We all know that we need to like physical education in elementary covers a lot. We can teach them values, we can teach them skill. So this is a very rich subject that probably is not given attention to. Now this is the most opportune time that we find, or we take this one, we take the lead of teaching values, teaching skills to our students. I know our teachers are now very, very optimistic hearing all the sharing of Dr. Pangrazi. We are given another drive to continue doing what we want, and I hope we will be able to use physical education as a catalyst to create a holistic individual, specifically here in the Philippines. I am so happy and I'm so honored that we are invited by Dr. Agus. And listening to you, Dr. Pangrazi, gives me another drive to be at my best and informing the teachers. Since we are teaching, or we are forming Bachelor of Physical Education in our university. So it gives us another dimension on how to provide activity for elementary. I know the elementary department, or the ages of that department is very crucial for them to get lifelong learning. Thank you very much, Dr. Agus and Dr. Pangrazi.
Well, thank you. I like the way you said it about being a catalyst and everything. I thought that was very well said.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rainey. And I still see that some of the participants also raised the hand. Let me check because anyone raised hand and ready to.
I always like hearing from you. And by the way, there's a lot of comments they're sending here in the chat. And thank you so much for your kind. You got many kind words here. Thank you all for being a part of the discussion. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Agus. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Well, actually, I'd like to also tell you the problem when I mentioned about the PE as the sport technique. For us in Indonesia, it will become worse because the ability for school to support with the equipment is really limited. So if you see our PE teacher teaching any sport, then you are going to be apprehended because what you see, the teacher is going to make the children stand in line, in long line, really long line. And then they have only 1 or 2 balls, you know. And with this line, the children will have a very long time to wait for their opportunity. That's because the teacher emphasizes the teaching in the skill technique or the sport technique, which is, let's say, in volleyball, they have to do like big pass and then should do like overpass and so on. It's the children do it turning, so they have to wait, and the time for PE is just spent or wasted by only waiting for the turn. That's what our problem in Indonesia. So with our new curriculum, actually we are trying to remove this kind of practice, because at least when you said that they have to, that the children have to improve their capacity or their fitness, at least they have to move very frequently, and they have to move until their lungs working, increase their working loads to, let's say, to have to breath and anything. Only with that kind of practice, then the children will have that at least maintain, or it could be improve or increasing their fitness level. So that's our problem, actually. Anyone?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just speak to that. You know, you were talking about them standing in line. There's absolutely no excuse for standing in line. There's none. That's just bad teaching. And number one. Number two, you got to have equipment. Are you going to teach math without pencils? Then you can't teach physical education without equipment. And it's time to get equipment for kids. And by the way, just let me remind you something. The person who needs the best equipment is the person that doesn't know how to do the skill. A great athlete can work with the worst equipment and still look pretty good. But instead, we give the best equipment to the best athletes, and we give the leftover and the worn out and the junk to the young children. And it's time that we get equipment for them. If I sound a little feisty about all this, you're right. I have fought for 50 some years to try to get the things that people need. And standing in line, it is absolutely worthless. And that's why people don't like physical education. And here's the problem. People leave school hating physical education. And those people never forget, and they come back and they make decisions about PE. The public and administrators don't like PE oftentimes because they had a poor experience in school. It's time we turn that around, and we've got to get them going. So they need equipment. I want you to look at some of those videos in my curriculum. And you'll see there, schools, every youngster has a piece of equipment. Every youngster has to handle something. It has to be in their hands. Come on. It's just common sense.
Yeah. The problem also because our government could not support, let's say, the financial matter, because providing children.
Say it, Agus. I missed the first part of what you said. Say it again, please.
Okay. Yeah. The problems in when the school only have very limited equipment is because it's also limited support, especially financial support from the government. No school in our country has, let's say, good financial ability to buy or to provide children with the sufficient equipment in terms of number and in terms of quality. So combined with the awareness of the teacher, that that's why I really like to introduce your unique contribution concept to the teacher, is that because I always said like this, because if you teach children and children do not, let's say, move, and you never see the way they breathing improving, and we can let's say diagnose that they have reached a certain level of physical activity dose, then you are not teaching quality physical education. And also the other, when you are not, let's say, introducing the concept of mechanical principle, then you are not also teaching good PE for the children, because the characteristic of good and quality physical education is at least fulfilling the 3 characteristic of unique contribution that you ever introduce in the book. So that's what I always say to the teacher.
Yeah, and I think that's well said. Let me just say this about equipment. In many ways, it's the same in the U.S. Schools aren't given enough money for PE equipment. Okay, here's the difference. In our country, teachers go out and we help them, but they go out and seek grants for money. In other words, a lot of the sport companies will give schools money for equipment in the US. We will ask kids to bring equipment from home that they're not using, so everybody has a ball. We will work and work and work until we get that equipment there, and we take amazing care of our equipment. You can't lose it, and PE equipment should only be for the PE teacher. It shouldn't be on the playground. It shouldn't be anywhere else, because those are the tools I need to teach quality physical education. So there are ways to get it, and it's just too easy to say, well, I know we have no budget for the money, so for the schools, so we have to stand in line. We can't do anything about it. Well, you're helpless then. There's no point in even being a teacher. Our job is to solve things. I know it's tough, but I've never found anybody who's successful who does nothing but make excuses. So I'm sorry if I'm tough. That's just who I am. And you can get angry at me, but it somehow I've got to find it. And we have kids give old equipment to the school. We'll do anything to get equipment. We'll take old shoes and help kids who don't have shoes and all that sort of thing. We don't have a lot of money. I mean, there's no place that I know in the world where PE has all the money they'll ever need. But then what school in the world has all the money they need? None of them.
Yeah. Thank you for your comment and for your suggestion. Again, I'll invite the audience or the participant to comment or to deliver question. Would you please?
Pak Agus?
Yeah.
Can I have to answer to Prof. Pangrazi?
Oh, sure, of course. You are welcome. Please, for Dian.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Agus Mahendra. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dian Budiana, the Dean for Academic Affairs from Faculty of Sport and Health Education. Thank you for your kind participation to be keynote speaker on the first webinar conducted by PE teacher for elementary school and study program in Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Prof. Pangrazi, I wonder if there is the same study program as this is there in USA, especially in Arizona University, because what do you think about a special physical education study program for elementary school is very important, because in case in Indonesia, the fallacy say that PE teacher at elementary school can only come from the study program PE for elementary school. Hello, Prof. Pangrazi.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understood the question. I apologize. Okay. It's my fault. You try again with me, or help me out a little bit. I didn't quite understand the question.
I repeat.
Bob, can I just add the question? I mean, like this. Do you have the same study program like what we are now having in our UPI? Do you have a PE/TE program for elementary school in your country?
Oh, do we have PE programs for elementary school children in our country?
Yeah, PE/TE program.
Yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. In every school, but the children only get it about 2 times per week.
Sorry, it's not the question. I mean, PE/TE. I mean, teacher education or teacher preparation program for, especially for PE teacher in elementary school. Like in university, do you have a program like what we have in our country?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I did for 35 years. Oh, yes. Absolutely. We have programs just like you. And I read your comments here where you're concerned that they're cutting back the number of credit hours that they want you to do. They want the program to be leaner, you said. Okay, I get that. And we felt the same thing in our country. But yes, we have a program just for elementary PE. And we have faculty that train just elementary PE teachers. Okay, then we have faculty that teach high school. But we cross over too. Our students go to all of them because we never know where that student is going to get a job. Even though they say they want to go to the high school, there may be no jobs, so they may end up in an elementary school. So we train all our teachers at Arizona State and across the country pretty much in the US. We train them all to be K through 12. In other words, elementary through high school teachers. Did I answer the question?
Okay. Padian, did we answer?
Prof. Pangrazi, how the fallacy of the USA about the PE teacher, especially from study program of PE/TE? Fallacy of USA?
And what's the quality of the PE teacher?
I mean,
policy.
Yeah, the policy of USA, because in case in Indonesia, the policy that a PE teacher elementary school can only come from the study program PE.
Yeah, the same. Pretty much the same in the US. They have to be trained at the university before they can take a job in the schools. So that's true. They have to, we call it certification. They have to be certified before they can teach PE in the schools. And most of our students leave with a K through 12 certification. In other words, they're certified to teach at all levels. We used to, when we first started, certified them at the elementary level or the secondary level. That didn't work very well because, as I told you, they ended up in all different places and they didn't know what they were doing. So we certify our teachers K through 12.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Pangrazi, Pak Agus Mendra, terima kasih.
Thank you.
Okay, Pak Dian, thank you very much for the questions. And I still open the chance for other audience or other participants to extend the question, please.
Hi, Sir Agus. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, please.
Yes, good morning. I am Porfiria S. Poralan. I am with Sir Rene Vieira. He's my coordinator at the University of the Immaculate Conception. So, sir, yes. Am I audible?
I can hear you.
Okay. Sir Robert, I am so happy to listen to you. While we were listening to you, you sent us chills. We have, me and my co-teachers here are actually in our chat box, very there's a lot of noise going on.
Just a second. Somebody, I can't hear you because somebody doesn't have their mic mute.
Right. Can you please mute your mic?
I can't hear anything now,
Yes.
but noise.
Wait,
Yes.
the admin, can you mute all the participants except for the one who's speaking? Are you Regina Joyce Migalbin?
I am Ferry Poralan, sir. Porfiria Poralan.
I can hear you fine now.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. Well,
I'm sorry.
It's okay, sir. I am so glad to see you. I only read your book, sir. And then while listening to you, I actually send the link to my students also. I am teaching physical education for 20 years already. I was teaching grade school, I was teaching high school, college, and now I am teaching graduate students. So pretty much I experienced the experiences of PE teachers in the grade school. And now I am focused on teaching the graduate school, which all my students are graduate school students. They're already PE teachers in respective areas. And I was so inspired listening to you because I think I am in the framework of what you're talking about. I can relate so much to what you said because I think PE should be focused on PE alone because the PE is the foundation. Whenever a student can really excel in movement competencies, he can be a sports enthusiast or an athlete. But I believe I am one with you in the belief that the foundation PE should be the focus of this. And PE should not be given the same treatment of academic standing in the curriculum. It has to be different. But it is different, but it is equally important because, as you said, there are a lot of things going on. There's what we call hidden curriculum in the PE. Okay. Now, I can only wish, sir, that our officials, government officials, can also listen to your perspective.
Thank you.
Because as now, in Region 11, I still think that we are not that confident yet. Now, but listening to you, it's adding more confidence in us. I am in the region 11, and I think in this small area of ours, we can reframe physical education. And I'm so glad I have encountered speaker like you, because it gives me a lot of drive, a lot of, you're sending us a lot of things, sir. And I am hopeful that slowly we can reframe our physical education here in the Philippines. You know, Philippines, there are a lot of things going on in the Philippines about PE. Everything is there in PE, health, fitness, sports, and all, recreation, all there. But they forget the focus. That's our problem, sir. We put in a lot of things and we forget the focus. And that's why PE teachers are not confident enough to shine, because walang focus. We don't have that focus. And I'm so glad to listen to you. My students are here. They're listening to you. They're listening to me actually at this moment. And I'm sending you the gratitude, no? My heartfelt gratitude for giving us this talk and for being so candid about it. And your passion is inflicting all of us. Thank you so much, sir. That's my wish. I wish you can also talk to leaders, government leaders, Department of Education, CHED perhaps, because CHED, the higher education, will produce future physical education teachers. In my university, I am part of the faculty members who will produce future physical education teachers. And you are giving me a lot of confidence. I am stronger now to push on what all along I was being affirmed by you, sir. I was being affirmed. My thoughts, my gestures are being affirmed, and I think you inspire me more to move forward. And I thank you for that, sir. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Well, let me just say to you, if I was looking for a professor to hire, I'd hire you in a minute, because what you just did would work just great. So if I needed a professor, I'd hire you.
Thank you so much, sir. That's something. That's awesome.
You said it very well.
Thanks,
Very
sir.
well. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Puralan. It also gives us the perspective of your PE program in your country, because I have ever visited PNU, and I met Professor Vergara Lordino, if you know him maybe. And we were ashamed that actually our PE was so sport-based, was so sport-oriented. But now I know that the problem to combine all of the perspective also is not really easy, right? After hearing from your comment right now, but
yeah,
okay, I think it's still
right.
better position than what we have in our country, Indonesia.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And you're right. It's very difficult, but everything moves slow in education, and you just have to keep going and know where you're going. You have to have great confidence in yourself, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to keep pushing for what you want. And then you have to build from the bottom up. You have to build with new teachers. It's almost impossible. And you know me, I don't take the word impossible very well, because I always think there's a way to beat something. But it's almost impossible to change somebody who's been teaching 20 years at a high school, and to try to change them. They're going to stay the same probably. It's much easier to start from the bottom up and work with your new teachers and find a place where they can build the kind of program, the kind of vision that you have. But you have to have the vision for these beginning teachers. You can't train them at the university and say, boom, now I'm never going to see you again, never going to talk to you again. You're on your own. We have to stay in touch with our graduates, and we have to help them stay on track, because it's too easy to get off track when you're out there in the school every day. Every day you have students coming at you all day long. You don't have time to think. And that's where we can help as university people.
Yeah, okay. All right, now I've come to, let's say, the last question from us. It's related to the size of our next curriculum should be. I think we should have a linear curriculum, or let's say a smaller curriculum, because now the Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia recently launched the policy called Independent Campus and Freedom to Learn, which is implemented to all universities in all study programs in Indonesia. This policy basically requires all study programs to only provide at least 5 semester academic terms to form the core major academic competencies in its own discipline, and give the student opportunity for the rest of the semester term for whatever they like to build outside their major. So in principle, with this policy, our curriculum structure will become more compact. It could be should consist only around 85 to 100 semester credit hour, or equal to about 50 courses. So embedded in this policy is the thinking that we should build the teacher competencies is merely through the very short period of time, only less than 50 course or only 5 semesters. So for this reason, we tend to have a worrying concern, for we are strongly challenged by this situation in the national policy to decide what courses are really entrusted to develop the real competency of PE teacher. Our dilemma is the fact that while with the strong or the complete curriculum consists of, let's say, 150 semester credit hour itself, we have been witnessing that the teaching behavior and competencies of our student, of our teacher produced from our university has never satisfactorily acquired, let alone with only relying to those only less than 100 semester credit hour. So if you understand our problem, our dilemma here in our country, could you advise us what is the important consideration in choosing those courses, and how is the composition of basic knowledge of Schulman taxonomy should underlie those courses under which the course be put in the list? Do you get my question?
Oh, I get it well. Yeah, I have no problem with that question. You sound like I was the chair of my department for many years, and every faculty member fights for every course. And so I totally get it. And it's always, every university is, we got to cut back, but we want this course in there, and we want that course, and we want this. So it becomes a dogfight. Let me just, because I don't know your courses and all that, let me, how about a general couple of statements and thoughts about what's really important. If you're going to be a teacher, the only way you learn to teach is to teach. I'm going to say it one more time. Okay. If you're going to be a teacher, the only way to learn to teach is to teach, not sit in the classroom all the time. The more practice we can get for our students on campus that is supervised and observed either by a master teacher or a professor, the better the product will be. The very best thing, and the thing that people always knew about the teachers I taught and graduated, was that my teachers could teach, and it was a good product. In America, everybody knows what a McDonald's hamburger is going to taste like. They do the same thing, and you know what their product is. So if you like McDonald's, it doesn't matter what country it's in, you're going to go to McDonald's. Now, I'm not pushing McDonald's on you because I don't go myself, but that's not the point. The point is you need to graduate teachers that have credibility with the schools and that are going to hire them. Too often, the school hires a teacher and trains them on the job. So now I'll take that back and say to your teacher training program, we have 4 semesters that our students go to school for 8 semesters, 4 years. Okay. 4 of those semesters, 2 years, they are in the schools and they are working with us. The more time we get them in the schools with people who we choose and select to put them with, the better will be. In fact, you cannot train good teachers without having a good relationship with some schools who will work with you to train new teachers. It's impossible. There's going to be a huge disconnect if the university trains them over here and then sends them out to the school here. There's a disconnect. And they will say, you know, that University of Indonesia, they don't know how to train teachers. And there will be a disconnect. For years now, we've said the only way to train great teachers is to have the university and the public schools or private schools have them work together, so that if I have a teacher, I send them out to a school with a master teacher who I know knows what they're doing. I just can't send them out to anybody. In fact, there's a saying that in some universities, you train a teacher and then you send them out for their student teaching. And they go out to the school and work with a master teacher for 1 semester and teach. That master teacher can undo everything you taught them in 3.5 years if they're not a good master teacher. So it is absolutely important that you select the people that are going to work with your students in the schools. And they have to philosophically align with you. And if they don't, that's fine, but don't use them. Because you're never going to build a product if you train your teachers a certain way, Agus, and then send them out to a school who does it totally differently. Because those teachers will adopt what they see out there when they get there. They can't help it. So I don't know what you're going to put in your curriculum, and the courses are less important than the experiences you create with the public schools and the private schools and the university and the teaching experiences you get there, because I'll say it again, the only way you learn to teach is to teach with supervision. And we give them way too much classroom stuff. And I'm sorry to all you professors I'm talking to, but we yak way too much. We blah, 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 talk too much, and they don't get to teach enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love you all. Okay. I'm not trying to criticize you. I love you all, but I'm very straightforward, and I know how to train teachers, and my teachers were in demand. Do you know that I always had a shortage of people calling me and wanting my teachers, and I never had enough because everybody hired them. And by the way, I will also tell you this. I always thought it was my job as a professor to help my teachers get jobs.
Yeah.
And I had great relationships with the schools. Everybody knew when Pangrazi was coming. And I just think, I just think it's important. We just can't sit in a university office and classroom and really prepare quality teachers. Is that clear enough?
Yeah, yeah. And after hearing your suggestion or your answer, I have a great chance to put our student in the rest 3 semesters to be spent by a student in school actually. So 5 semester hour is in the university to learn more about theoretical concept and anything. But then the 3 semesters terms, they have to go to school. Maybe we can try to like protect these so they don't go to like to industry or to other facility or other office that doesn't have connection with any teaching task. It could be like that. But we have also another problem. Before I told you that most PE lesson in Indonesia, which is still oriented to the sport base, to the sport concept, most of the teachers are the, let's say, all teachers who are still practicing the old way in teaching the PE with the sport, that force the student should be standing in line, in really long line to wait for the opportunity to move. That's our problem actually. But that's okay. I will, yeah.
I have that. I had that problem, but you know what? I never sent any of my teachers to those old farts.
Okay.
No way. Okay, if they're not going to teach what I want them to teach, then I don't want them. You can't send a good young teacher who doesn't know anything, who's impressionable, who wants to learn, who is hungry to learn. Their eyes are wide open, and you send them out to a school, and here they got them all lined up in line, taking turns and doing everything wrong. It's just not, you're just counterproductive. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Okay.
You got to be tough. And I used to get complaints from these old teachers that were doing it wrong. And I used to get complaints and they said, how come we never get any students with us? And I told them straight away, because I don't think they're going to learn the things I want my students to learn. And did some of them not like me? Of course, but I'm not in trying to make friends with everybody. I'm trying to prepare good teachers.
Yeah. I think we can do it the same way with you. Thanks for the lesson. Yeah. All right. But of course, as Asian people or someone who was rare on Asian culture, it's not easy to become so straightforward like you. It's our culture. Yeah.
I do understand, and you know what? I kind of appreciate your culture. So it's kind of nice. You'd get tired of me too. So I get it.
Okay. Everyone, could you do you still have anything to discuss? Because I already spent all of my prepared questions. So if no one is going to make use the time left, so I will end this discussion. Yes, who?
Bagus, I have one question to Prof.
Oh, Pak Riki Wibowo, it's good.
Thank you, Bagus, for the
please. Yeah.
Good morning, Prof. Pangrazi.
Good morning.
I have one single question for you, Prof. Pangrazi. I see your website is very complete in providing material for physical education teacher. What I want to know is how do you close the gap between technology innovation and physical education? And how do you get along with technology? For example, the Gospel website provides a variety of pedometer as a tools. In my view, as a physical education teacher, it is not possible to make such tools. Is the teacher, they are very knowledgeable about technology or maybe collaborating with a company? Maybe you can expand a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Goose, will you help me a little bit because the sound wasn't coming through real good? Could you help me with this question?
Yeah, I could infer that the question is related to the readiness of the teacher connected with the technology usage. If you, let's say, suggested one teacher to use pedometer or other equipment related to very sophisticated equipment, technological equipment, it will have another problem for our teacher. Let's say because they are not really literate with that kind of technology. So in your country, how is that? Do the majority of your teacher in elementary school or in high school or in middle school, do they have the ability to catch the technology advancement or something?
Okay, very good
That's
question. I got it. Okay, I apologize. The sound wasn't quite coming through clear, so I apologize to you for not catching it. Yes, I get it. Look, let me be honest. All the problems that you all see as problems, we have in the U.S. too. We're no better than you. We have all the same problems as you do. And do our teachers know that technology? No. Most of them probably don't, but then I'm going to find the ones who are willing to learn it and to work with it and get them on board. I mean, for example, we send them out with pedometers and heart rate monitors and using overheads to show videos that we want to show and things like that. Are all of them willing to use it? No. I mean, the old sports ones that want to just teach sports skills, they'll continue to do the same thing. They're not going to learn all that stuff. So why should they get one of my students? I'm not going to. So did I answer your question?
Ricky, sudah terjawab?
Yes. Thank you, Prof. Robert Pangrazi. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, yeah, it's a kind of relieving that to know that it's not only our problem, but you have also almost the same problem. So
that's right. We do have the same problems, and that's why first of all, I'm Italian, so I'm a little bit feisty. You talk about your softer Asian culture. Well, Italians, I'm all arms and hands, and I'm feisty by nature. That's just who I'm passionate. I guess that's a better word. I'm very passionate about my profession. I love my profession. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of who I am. If I had to do it all over, I'd do it again. I always wanted to be a teacher. My grandfather came from Italy and wanted me to be a teacher. And so I'm very proud of being a teacher. But you're absolutely right. We have all the same problems as all of you. And you just have to keep fighting them every day and never quit. Don't quit.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's giving us a high spirit to always progress with our program. So, okay, everyone, all participants, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude for your enthusiast participation in this webinar. I should also extend our apology for not, let's say, if your expectation to this webinar is not being fulfilled fully, but I am sure that what we have been discussed with Prof. Robert Pangrazi has given us very inspirational and thought-provoking topic issue. So I think we can learn from it. We have a great lesson from from the discussion just now. So I also extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Robert Pangrazi for your high spirit in sharing your experience and your expertise. I do believe that our program is going to be progressing in the near future. And of course, we also need the support from the government, and I hope we could do that. We could influence, and we could send the result of this webinar to, let's say, to the director of education responsible for elementary school education in the ministry. So we could do that. So I think it's my my time to say thank you again, and I'll give this back to the MC. Thank you very much, sir, and everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody. All the best
Thank
of
you.
luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Terima kasih, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Makasih.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you and
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Prof.
sir.
Pangrazis.
Sehat, Sadayana sehat.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Mr. Pangrazi. Bapak dosen Sadayana.
Yeah. Before we close the event, I would like to inform something. So,
bergabung.
Thank you, sir.
Memberikan ilmu yang bermanfaat.
Thank you, Sir Robert.
Thank you very much.
all right. I would like to inform you. All right, thank you very much to Dr. Agus Mahendra, to Professor Pangrazis, and to everyone who has been involved in this event. And before we close the webinar, I would like to inform you that the attendance form has been shared in the chat room. So please fill in the link and we will receive your attendance. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the webinar. And on the behalf of the committee, I would like to extend our gratitude to all of you, to the speaker, participant for the participations, and see you again in the next event. Thank you very much.
Wilujeng Pak Kaprodi, selamat sukses.
Terima kasih Bu Ulan sudah.
Terima kasih.
Wilujeng Pak Kaprodi, Pak Riki, Bu Ulan.
Ya, terima kasih.
Yes.
Hari ini ngatas
Hatur nuhun Pak Dian, Pak Boyke.
Ya, sami-sami.
Bagus.
Sukses selalu.
Thank you
Hatur
everyone.
nuhun Kak Sadayana.
Nuhun Pak Riki.
Sadayana.
Yeah,
Terima kasih
thank you very
semuanya.
much.
Nah, hatur nuhun Kak Sadayana.
Pak
Everyone.
Oh, Bu Ulan,
Bagus,
ini mumpung masih ada peserta, mungkin disampaikan dalam bahasa Indonesia saja apa yang harus diisi oleh peserta supaya nanti mereka tidak kehilangan jejak. Pak Riki, mungkin secara teknis.
Ya, Pak.
Yang ada teknis yang harus diisi oleh peserta supaya mereka tadi yang disampaikan Bu Ulan kan di
Nanti
chat harus diisi apa? Sampaikan
lanjut
saja, mau masih banyak pesertanya.
Ya.
Untuk kehadiran sudah di-share di chat room, kemudian untuk link sertifikat nanti juga akan di-share setelah acara.
Di-share-nya di mana Bu Ulan?
Untuk link sertifikat nanti akan di-share di grup WA, untuk kehadiran di-share saat ini Pak di chat room.
Iya.
Di mana bulan kok nggak ada di chat? Aku nggak ketemu.
Udah tenggelam sebentar, saya kirim lagi.
Dikirim ulang aja Bu Ulan, ya.
Dia di Malang deh. Iya.
Oh ya. Oke.
Ya. Lagi praktik nih, Pak. Praktik 1 kali. Sama. Untuk sertifikat mungkin ditunggu 1 sampai 2 hari ya, Bapak Ibu. Jadi mohon sabar untuk menerima.
Sebenarnya Anda harus login identitas Anda akan tetap.
Langsung dikirim ke email Pak Riki ya?
Ditunggu Pak 1 sampai 2 hari.
Artinya dikirim ke email?
Ke email Pak.
Artinya yang link kehadiran itu sangat berguna ya untuk.
Ya, harus diisi Pak. Betul.
Jadi mohon link kehadiran Bapak Ibu diisi karena nanti akan dikirim oleh panitia ke email yang diisikan di daftar hadir ya.
Iya. Kemudian
Iya Pak WD.
yang itu
Sami Bu Beliana sukses ya.
Ya.
Nah, loginnya kemana?
Thank you, Pak Riki. I'll be leaving now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Dr. Agus.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Izin untuk leave.
We'll see each other again soon.
Yeah, we will. We will, Dr. Agus.
Yeah, thank you. very much. And
Thank
also
you.
send my best regard to all of the colleagues.
Yes, thank you to Dr. Agus. Bye, Dr. Agus.
Bapak Dr. Agus Mahendra.
Ya, mangga-mangga. Terima kasih.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
Selamat Pak Agus Mahendra. Tes.
Hai Pak Rande. Atur nuhun, atur nuhun.